Hello and welcome to another edition of the Jarrod Thomas Show podcast. Normally, I have a guest or two that we try to bring out to do the pod. You know, the pod found anywhere that pods are found. Drops every Tuesday at 9 a.m., by the way. And I thank those of you that have taken the time to continue to listen to the podcast. It has been a bit of a petri dish and a brand new venture for us here at Leighton Media and a brand new venture for me in particular. And it's been really, really good. I'm finding that I'm enjoying it, and I hope that you're enjoying the content as I will continue to make sure that that we get newsmakers into the pod so they can answer questions. And I'm, to be honest, after 32 years of being on the air, there's been a little bit of an adjustment getting used to this format. It is just a bit different. It's not completely different, of course, but it is just a hair different. And so it's taken some time to adjust. And hey, to be honest, a little bit of an old dog here trying to learn some new tricks. You'll notice that it's just me today. And there's good reason for that. As I've been listening to the radio and I've been listening to other podcasts that have addressed this topic, I find it interesting, and I kind of wanted to take a few minutes and just sort of address it. When something like this happens, when we have a school shooting, there's a couple of things that I think, I don't want to say we miss, but we do the same. There's a bit of a rhythm to it almost. School shooting happens. News agencies report. News agencies try very carefully to only give you the facts. News agencies then interview people that are surrounding it. We sometimes identify the victim. In fact, most of the time, or identify rather the perpetrator. Sometimes now we don't because we figure, well, that just gives them what they want. They want the notoriety. They want all the things. And so this latest school shooting happens close to us, which is what we care about in the Minneapolis area. Most everybody has been to Minneapolis for one reason or another. It is really the biggest large city that is closest to us. And so we sometimes go there for vacations, or we go there for sporting events, or we go there for a variety of reasons. But certainly most of us have been to Minneapolis. We feel like we know Minneapolis. We feel like we know the people there. We feel like if we live in the Grand Forks or in the surrounding area, that these people are our people. So what the heck is going on here, right? So this one catches the attention. And there's some things, of course, with each one of these that are unique, but this one in particular is unique as well. Police have identified the suspect who opened fire outside of a church at a Catholic school in Minneapolis, as we mentioned, killing 2 children, injuring 18 others as a 23-year-old Robin Westman. An 8-year-old and a 10-year-old were shot and killed when the gunman fired through the windows of a church at a Catholic school on Wednesday morning. The shooter died at the scene with a self-inflicted gunshot wound, so said Minneapolis Police Chief. Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, also confirmed the identity of the suspect, calling Westman a deranged monster. This level of violence is unthinkable. Our deepest prayers are with the children, parents, families, educators, and Christians everywhere. We mourn with them, we pray for healing, and we never forget them, Noem said in a statement. Now, all of this, of course, is nice, and to some degree, all of this is by the playbook. This is what we do. Tragedy happens, in particular school shootings. Tragedy happens, so we do the thing. Thoughts and prayers. We send our condolences out. The White House undoubtedly will send some high-level official to the funerals, and then we'll move on to, sadly, the next one. Stick with me here a little bit, okay? So, driver's license information that was obtained about Westman as a female born on June 17th of 2002. A name change application for a minor born on the same date was approved by a district court in Minnesota in 2020, changing the name of a Robert Westman to Robin Westman, explaining the minor child identifies as a female and wants her name to reflect that identification. Police said Westman is believed to be the only suspect. Westman does not appear to have an extensive known criminal history. Officials said they're looking through information left behind to try to determine some type of motive. Clearly, said the police chief, had a deranged obsession with previous mass shootings. Ultimately, this person committed this act with the intention of causing as much terror and as much trauma and as much carnage as possible for their own personal notoriety. The chief goes on to say, fantasized about the plans of other mass shootings. The chief said authorities do not believe the suspect had any previous acts of civil commitment for mental health issues. The church shooting suspect's mother worked at the church until 2021. According to some online posts, Westman also previously attended the school, the police chief told ABC News. Officials spent some time looking at YouTube videos. And in a series of videos posted, believed to be associated with Westman, according to law enforcement sources familiar with the matter. 2 videos posted Wednesday morning and since removed by YouTube show someone flipping through dozens of pages of notes dated over the course of several months, which included this appears to be doodles of weapons, middle fingers, and expletives. These are also repeated references to killing. The videos, which depict handwritten journals and a display of high-powered weaponry, paint a portrait of a person with a rambling and a deeply nihilistic outlook, according to analysis by law enforcement ABC News. So for me, this is a little bit where the rubber hits the road. Most of the time, when we want to talk about random and we want to talk about monsters and we want to talk about these sorts of things, these people are anything but. These people are out there living their life, and their cries for help are, in this case, in YouTube videos. In this case, in the confusion about whether or not I'm male or female. And however you believe on that, you believe on that. But that doesn't mean that if you feel that way, then the feeling has to get addressed. You got to figure that out. A lot of this will oftentimes get laid at the feet of parents. I know growing up, if I would have went to my father and I would have said, Dad, I think I'm a girl. You know what would have happened? Growing up in the house of Tom? Think you're a girl, huh? All right. Marcia, my mom's name. Jarrod and I are going to go and we're going to go hang out for a couple of hours. Don't hold dinner. Right. There would have been no confusion at the end of that visit. Let's just say that. Now, that's 1970, 1980. Parenting. My parents, my family, they didn't tolerate certain things. They didn't believe that if you're born a boy, you're a boy. Be a boy. Do things. Be a guy. Do that. I get things have changed and we've evolved or devolved depending on your point of view. But what got addressed in that example that I gave you was the feeling. Now, had my dad come back, by the way, I made that up. That never happened. But had we come back and my dad had legitimate concern that I really thought that I might be a woman or a feminine or a female or a girl, or next steps would have been taken, is my point. I would have went to some mental health screening. I would have went and saw specialists and therapists, and the list goes on. Why? Because my parents are engaged. Even at 52 years old, my parents are engaged in what I'm doing. They've never stopped parenting me, even well into their 70s. So at the end of the day, what I always find so fascinating about this is it's appropriate to grieve for the families. An 8 and a 10-year-old, I mean, my God, what is more horrific than that? An 8 and a 10-year-old died just by being 8 and 10, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, just going about their 8 and 10-year-old lives, and they're no longer here. That's awful. That's horrible and should not be lost in the shuffle of this by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm here to tell you that I believe that a lot of this was likely preventable. And it's likely preventable if we'd have just been paying attention. The other thing about this, too, that I think that we've lost track of through time, I think it was Hillary Clinton. So already I've lost most of you. But I think it was Hillary Clinton that said it takes a village to raise a kid. Likely not the first person to say it, but certainly one of notoriety that has said it. And one of the things that I find fascinating is that we don't do it that way anymore, right? Our technology is more responsible for raising our kids than really any of us these days. But at the end of the day, it's got to be on the community at some level to figure this out. We don't do this anymore, right? We don't get involved. Your problems are your problems. I got my problems. Life is hard. Gas is expensive. My mortgage is high. Hell, there's too many apartments in Grand Forks. I mean, where are we supposed to be? Where are we supposed to live? I can't worry about your kid. Damn it, I got my own. But just by simply watching this guy's YouTube ramblings should have triggered a phone call from somebody that took the time to watch it. Let's say there's 4 views. 4 people watched it. 4 people watched a man struggle. 4 people did nothing. Say there was 400 people that watched it. 400 people watched it. 400 people did nothing. 400 people, 4 people, 62 people. I don't know how many watched it. YouTube took it down, so I don't know that we'll ever know. But nobody reached out to this guy to say, hey, man, you okay? Why don't we go to lunch? Why don't we hang out? Why don't we go grab a beer? Why don't we go have... You want to come to this party with me? You need something? Call me. Let's talk. Nobody did that? So you have that conversation and, dude, Robin's off. We gotta, I mean, there's something that's not right here. There's something that's not, we gotta get this guy some help. We gotta figure this out. Did anybody do that? So we're in a position now, and we do this in society, and we wonder, of course, we're always going to wonder, well, why does this happen? And we use phrases like deranged monster, and we talk about, or was it just a dude that was crying out for help, that had too long been an outlier in society, that likely screamed and nobody heard? Nobody reached out. And a tragedy happens. So I don't know how we get back to it. I don't know how we get, well, that's not true. To some degree, I do know how we get back to it. We get back to it by, pardon my French, by giving a shit. We give back by asking the tough questions. We get back to being a better society and a better version of ourselves if we take the time to invest in people again. If we put down technology and if we spend more time looking people in the eye and asking them the tough questions. How are you doing? I'm not good, man. What's going on? And you have the tough conversations. You be a friend. You put the phone away. You put the laptops away. We connect. We talk. We solve problems. We save lives. So thankful that most of my upbringing, I recall having my first cell phone around the flood of 97. So I would have been 24, 25 years old, somewhere in there, but 23, 24 actually. And I remember getting a cell phone only because it was the way for a period of time there that we could communicate. And it was a large thing. The thing was like a brick. In fact, I think for some time we called it a brick phone. The thing was huge. And I remember the phones evolving. I remember the phones evolving quickly. And I remember having my first BlackBerry. And I remember the advent of my work email coming to my cell phone. And then I remember sending the first text message later with, I think it was a Razor phone. And if you wanted to use the letter C, you had to touch, I think it was the number 1 button 3 times, right? A, B, C. Move on to the next. And the next. And the next. It was painful. It was awful. It's not in any way like it was now. Apple comes along, I believe, in 2007, 2008. It absolutely blows this process out of the water. And now we're all walking around with high-powered computers, regardless of what kind of phone you prefer, in our pockets. And to some degree, that's great. But what it's done is that technology is taking away the human experience. And AI and robots and all these things, which I think most people believe to be the boogeyman, is here. And what it's done is it's absolutely destroyed the human connection. And people just feel lost. They feel alone. And they feel like they've got nowhere to turn. So they act out. And we get this. I'm going to invite you to spend some time with the people in your life. And I'm going to invite you to spend the time to talk to them. And I'm going to invite you to spend the time and make sure that the people in your life are solid. Make sure that they're good. Make sure that they're doing okay. This, like most of these school shootings, mass shootings, are preventable if we're paying attention, if we're connecting, and if we're willing to have the tough conversations. Gen Xers in particular, we grew up a certain way. Boomers, of course, grew up a certain way, the greatest generation, we all did. We're growing up much differently than my daughter, who will be 23 in December, grew up. They have never known a time without the internet. They have never known a time without a smartphone. They've never known a time where they believe they have literal thousands of friends. If you have my Snapchat profile, we're friends. They do a lot of their hanging out online or hanging out in their social media app of choice. And what happens is you convince yourself that you've got all these people in your life when really they're just screen names. But if we don't start to reestablish these kinds of connections, and if we don't start to ask the tough questions, and if we don't start to give a crap about the people that are in our lives, we can expect to continue to see more of this, not less. Back to Westman for a second. You know, in one notebook, there was a sticker that said, "Defend equality," an LGBTQI flag overlaid with a gun. A gun also has writings against Israel. If I'm the parents of this kid, the rest of my life is tough. Because all I had to do was spend some time with my child. If you have a child that's unique, if you have a child that's struggling, if you have a child that, hell, if you have a child that's thriving, pick up the phone, shoot him a text. I mean, hell, go see them. Look them in the eye. How are you doing? How are things? Learn how to ask open-ended questions. Hey, son, if you had one thing that you were struggling with, what would it be? Well, I don't know, Dad. No, I mean, honestly, if I told you that you had to answer this question, or your favorite thing would no longer be available to you, what would you tell me? What would you tell me is the thing that's causing you the most stress in your life right now? Let's talk about it. Oh, Dad, this is weird. Come on, son. I'm trying to have a conversation with you. What stresses you out? What's got you bugged out? What's going on in there? The same with your daughter. It's these open-ended questions that lead to great conversations that help you better understand your kid and where they're at. I'm not any sort of parenting guru, but god dang, for me and for my wife, we have one child. I got one chance to get this right, if you will, or closer to right, or more right than wrong, or however you want to think about it. And I have to know that I'm doing everything I possibly can to make sure that my child is in a good spot. When life changes, it comes at you quick. Like I mentioned, Maggie will be 23 now here in December. Maggie's going to finish her final semester at NDSU. Maggie then is going to apply for law school. And she'll apply everywhere because I understand that's the game. And let's just say my child ends up in a small law school in Oregon. My wife and I, our life is here. It's in Grand Forks. And my kid, as mentioned, at NDSU, I get to see her often. I see her frequently. In fact, we just were on vacation. And it's a blessing beyond blessings that I get to see my child all the time. But if she moves to Oregon to go to law school and her mother and I are here, I'm going to see her less. But do you think that means I'm going to talk to her less or more? Her life is going to be completely turned upside down. Does she need her parents more or does she need her parents less? Yeah, she's 23. So, right, she's supposed to have it all figured out, right? Like you did, right? It's not how it works. In some ways, my daughter is still 16. In some ways, my daughter's 40. And in some ways, my daughter is exactly her age, 22, almost 23. There's still work for my wife and I to do. We don't just go the other way or just, oh, she's done. She's very involved in our lives. In fact, she's very involved in our checkbook, which is something that is likely not going to change anytime soon with more schooling on the horizon. And by the way, I'm happy to do it. That's not the point. The point is that as she goes to Oregon, just in this example, and her mom and I move her out there, and we get her out there, we get her settled, and we do all the crying and all the tears and all the emotions come out as we head back home to Grand Forks, and she stays there. Do you think that her life is going to be different? Do you think our lives are going to be different? And what can we do about that? We can start by talking about it. We can start by being real about it. We can start by being in touch with our emotions, and we can start by saying, there's going to be days when, Maggie, this sucks. I haven't seen you in a month. I miss the hell out of you, kid. Thanksgiving can't get here fast enough because it finally gets you home for 4 or 5 days. And then a longer break over Christmas. I can't wait. And that's what your life becomes. Meanwhile, she's getting an education, but damn it, she knows her parents got her back. And again, I don't know if is that the perfect way? Is that the right way? Is that a good way? I don't know. I hope so. Hug your kids. Get to know them again. Ask them, hey, what are you dealing with? What's going on? How you been? Let's go to lunch. Let's go to dinner. Let's put the phones away and let's look each other in the eye and let's talk. Because I'm sure, and sadly, the realization is that once they're gone, they're gone. And the time to look back and go, damn. I kind of thought Lipper was struggling a little bit, but man, I never would have thought he would have. Did you talk to him? Did you ask him? How well do you know your friend? I apologize for the somber podcast, but I think it's important. If you've struggled in this area, and if you've struggled in an area where maybe you've had some depression, you've had some angst, you've had some issues in your life, and you've overcome them, or you've done some things in your life that have in some ways qualified you to have these conversations. You are qualified, by the way. You don't have the credentials. You need to be able to breathe to give a shit. So give a shit. Again, I apologize for the mild language. I'm fairly passionate about this. It seemingly, this one struck home for me, in part because I just think this is are we going to have people that live on the periphery of life? Are we going to have people that make bad and rash and horrible decisions? Of course we are. But can some of these be thwarted if we just take the time? If we give a crap about more than that 3-foot circle around us? If we really get to know people again, if we really start to talk to them, and if we really start to get down the path of helping your friends and your neighbors and your family and the people in your life, you're not there by accident, friends. You're there for a reason, you're there for a season, or you're there for a lifetime. But you're there. Make sure that you are where your feet are. Make sure that you're talking to the people that you love and that you like and that you give a crap about. It's important. Hug each other. Tell each other you love each other. And then back it up with action. I'm Jarrod Thomas. Thank you for listening to the Jarrod Thomas Show podcast. I appreciate each and every single one of you. If you could share some of this with some of your friends, make them aware of it, I would certainly appreciate it. Of course, every Tuesday at 9, Jacob tells me it drops. That's what the kids say. The pod, it drops, the pod, it drops. Anywhere podcasts are found, which has become a little bit of a, I won't say a joke around here, but certainly has become something that is been said quite frequently. I thank you again for your time, and we'll see you again next week for the Jarrod Thomas Show podcast.